Yo, peep these patch notes.
Dragon Age Veilguard. I'm going to turn it over to Bill as you have played this and probably put in I don't think Enigma, have you played the game? No, right? Okay.
Full disclosure, I have all of my opinions are based off of watching other people play it, based off of.
But you've watched a good amount, right?
I've watched the full, pretty much the full game. I don't think I've seen the final boss battle, but I've watched about, I want to say like 8, maybe 10 hours worth of gameplay
right here.
So
okay, and then Scruffy, you have not played the game yet, correct?
I'm blind.
Okay.
Yeah, not played nor really watched other than like.
Have
what
you
I've
played
seen
any
on social media.
of the Dragon Age games?
No, I have not. So
okay. Bill,
Yep.
you have played all the Dragon Age games, correct?
I've played all but the very first one. I played 2, Origins and Inquisition.
Okay. And
I have also played all of them as well.
And then I have this is actually my first entry into Dragon Age. I do want to reference something though. I do not know why people just feel that they have the cojones to go into a chat or a channel and just comment on something that they do not have any kind of record of. I have played throughout the 4 of us on this show have got a multitude of experience playing BioWare games. You know who you are. I'm just letting you know, like, be mindful before you comment on something, but we have got an experience amount of knowledge when it comes to BioWare and turn-based games and all of that kind of stuff. So, all right, Bill, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk, to kind of speak first, because I have put a little bit of time, but nowhere near as much as what you have for this.
Right. Right. So I've played about 8, 9 hours or so of Veilguard. I've watched my wife play about 20 hours of it. So given both of those, Dragon Age the Veilguard is an action RPG. It's on a gameplay front, I'm very much enjoying it. I'm playing as a mage. She's playing as rogue. And compared to prior Dragon Age games and compared to Inquisition, specifically, because we both replayed Inquisition recently before this one came out, the combat feels like a good jump forward. It feels like a good modernization of the Dragon Age style combat systems, with a few exceptions. Strictly speaking of the combat systems itself, they've limited the party size from 4 players or 4 characters, including your character, down to 3. I'm not the hugest fan of that. It feels weird. It feels like it's limiting on the dialogue options and the interactions that you can have. I know why. I know one reason why I kind of am liking the 3-party system is because that's one less person to fucking talk. So that's kind of nice. And we'll get into the dialogue and stuff later. But as far as like combat options go, I would have liked to have kept to the 4 the 4 character system. You also can't directly control the companions. You're only controlling your main character, Rook. You can kind of command them to do their abilities and aim like at specific enemies to use their abilities. And they've added a new system where you can kind of, if one person has one type of ability, it'll actually combo with another person's type of ability and give you a new effect. It's called a primer and detonation system. That's kind of a neat addition, and it adds another level of complexity to team comps, to abilities that you equip your companions and yourself with. So that is kind of a fresh and fluid way of going about it.
Just want to clarify, I'm not watching Hogwarts Legacy right now. This looks like you're fighting Dementors as a wizard right now. This is just Hogwarts Legacy, no? Just kidding.
Nah, I'm actually.
But it actually
whenever I first started,
kind of looks like Hogwarts Legacy, like just the general aesthetic of it all, and the wizard being too.
No, for sure. I was actually saying at the start of the stream that I was fully expecting Sorcerer to feel like Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah.
And
not a bad thing. I like how that game felt.
It's not a bad thing,
fun.
but it once you get past the first like hour or so, it stops feeling like Hogwarts Legacy. I feel like Hogwarts Legacy was a lot more simplified of a combat system.
I very heavily disagree with you on that. I've watched towards the end game where people have had like full builds, full skills, and they're still sitting there doing the exact same fucking combat of just spamming.
Now, is that just like button. Dependent on like, is that a preference? Like you could play that kind of style?
I don't know. I've seen two different people's playthroughs. I've seen two different people's playthroughs. The first one did a rogue, which
Rogue's badass. Rogue's badass.
Rogue is like the fucking love child of this entire studio. I feel like they put a fuckload of work into Rogue for some reason.
Yeah,
and then they just kind of ignored the other two for some reason.
I will agree with you on Warrior. I feel like Warrior was an afterthought. I'd hard disagree on Sorcerer as of right now where I'm at in the game. I don't know if it's going to get stale by end game.
Are you primarily playing staff mage?
I'm bouncing back and forth between staff and knife and orb, which I feel like is how you're kind of expected to play the Sorcerer, which having two sets of basic attack move sets, one playing very different from the other, adds variation in and of itself. Add on the fact that your staff can have one element, your orb can have another element. Add on to the fact that the knife has a parry system to it, so you can do melee and parry with it. Add on to the fact that you can mix and match different spells onto different main spells.
I watched.
There's a lot of variation.
I watched somebody do staff knife, and I felt like he was just doing the same exact thing. It was just parry, and then fucking do the wide whatever it is, the fucking arc hits essentially constantly, and then he would occasionally do the beam.
I think.
Oh yeah, there's the beam as well.
Even in late game, that was his entire bread and butter combo. Was just parry.
I think that
sounds like it was a user error, right? Because more so
than possible.
Here's what I would say is that, like, for someone again who. This is my first entry to Dragon Age, and I want you guys, I want Bill obviously to go through your entire thing before I kind of give my interpretation of the game. But
you're playing Sork as well, right?
I'm playing Sork, and I am like, I'm like, I just found even from the very beginning, I'm literally past the very like intro to when you go see Dragon Age Veilguard. Like that's where I made it to, and even just in that. I'm sitting there going, oh my God, like, dude, I can fucking do this and that and this and combo and switch and go here and there. So, I mean, I didn't feel like it was just spamming the shit out of a button left and right. But so I think that might have been that person's place. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah.
I've literally seen
I'm 9 hours into it right now. So
reviews across the internet complaining about the exact same thing as well. As just the combat feels very stale, very samey, even into the late game. And from everything that I've seen of the 2 or 3 gameplay bits that I've actually watched, it doesn't really look like they put a lot of work into it. It's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying the combat is terrible. It's serviceable. I mean,
RPG, maybe from a watching perspective, it might be boring to watch, but I have not had that experience I've not had that experience in playing it. I don't know if the people that you're watching are just like predisposed to not having fun with it or what's going on, but
it's not just
because I've also seen plenty of reviews saying that the combat is the highlight of the game, and the combat is what makes the game worth playing compared to the other aspects of the game, which we'll get into that do need criticized because they're shit. The combat, in my opinion, is what is carrying me through the game. I, as of right now, am full send on the build versatility that I'm finding with companions, also, my own character, and that kind of stuff.
Also, speaking of combat as well, like the enemy variety is terrible.
I'm noticing that. And I was kind of hoping it would improve moving forward.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. They have like 3 factions, and each of those factions has like 3 different variations, and that's it.
Then I mean that could kind of.
To be fair, though, none of the Dragon Ages had a huge variation on combat, or as far as enemy variety goes. Like Inquisition had demons, it had humans, it had mages. That was really it.
Yeah, but the other ones
feels kind of samey. To be honest,
the other games had story and actual fucking decent dialogue to lean back on.
Well, right.
It wasn't just all about the combat.
Okay, all right. So maybe I can't wait. I do need to. Because I really think that this game, right, is contrary to what EA may be saying and some of the people that are out there talking. I don't think I know, right? I'm gonna get. Hey, I don't think that this game was built for the old Dragon Age fans. I don't think that it was built. I think like I am their target audience, because I'll tell you right now, when I booted this up, because I wanted to put playtime in it before we discussed today's podcast, because I wanted to have something to talk about, because I knew it was going to be a heated discussion. I was not going to stream this game at all. I was like, this is not a game I'm going to, because I know that I'm not going to finish it, or I'm not going to be engaged with it. I booted it up, started playing. I immediately am like, dude, as soon as I'm fucking done with Silent Hill 2, I'm in. This is it. I'm streaming this game. I'm having a blast. I'm going to get so much. I'm having more fun, at least right now, and I'm not even that far enough in, but at least with the combat and stuff, than I actually did with Baldur's Gate. And I'm enjoying.
I don't think they're comparable.
No, I'm just talking about me. I'm not saying
I have a funny thing to say
like,
too.
You also didn't get out of the fucking
You're
intro.
right. I'm very, very, very early on. I am just saying that, like, from a combat
I don't think it's worth comparing the two. I'm not comparing.
I'm just talking about my experience. I'm just talking about my like enjoyment level and saying, hey, like, this is fun and I'm having a great time. And
this might be foreshadowing, but this is maybe the perfect game for Sin too.
Maybe,
because
right?
If
the story
feels
sucks
good and the story sucks, he doesn't care about story, man.
But I'm actually bought into the story so far.
It very well might be.
This might be Sin's fucking perfect game.
I'm I think the game was built for someone that's never stepped foot into the Dragon Age world.
But so I have to disagree entirely with you, considering the fact that Dragon Age in and of itself, like, I get where you're coming from with that. Like, the target audience was not necessarily going to be the diehard Dragon Age fans, but at the same time, made a Dragon Age
so interlaced
game.
That you can't.
You made a Dragon Age game and integrated Dragon Age lore into the game. You are making a game for Dragon Age fans. Right. But like, I don't agree with that at all.
Should have been the target audience, but maybe they just missed it. And that's
there's no maybe about it.
I'm just saying that I think that they're just basically going, hey,
you can say they were trying to target for an audience that had not necessarily played the original Dragon Age games.
Sure.
But at that, even still, you need to pander to the fucking people that.
I'm not saying it's the right decision. I'm just saying that
that's like saying the current Star Wars fucking trilogies weren't actually made for the Star Wars fucking original Star Wars fans. Like, that's what made Star Wars the original trilogy. Like, that's what made them what they are today. So
I'm not saying it was necessarily the right decision. I'm just saying that the audience that they shot toward was not the Dragon Age, hardcore fans or fans of the series. I think they were just like, we're making a new Dragon Age. We want to grab a new audience. This is how we're going to do it. And the reason that comment I've said this and why I'm talking about it now is because when you're talking about going back to the archetypes of the enemies and the lore and all this other kind of stuff, you have to, like, if you're going to compare it to, like, okay, cool, we're going to take enemy type to enemy type. We're going to take dialogue to dialogue. We're going to take, like, to go and say, well, the other games got a pass because their dialogue was great, so their enemy lore can be shit.
I never said that they got a pass.
I just said that they had that to fall back on, and I
said that they had a very good fucking story and character arc, character development, and fucking dialogue to fall back on.
The argument was the fact of what's the variety of characters to this variety. So if there was only three or four
I never said that the other ones didn't have that same issue. I just said that they had something else to fall back on. You can't just have combat as a fallback on, like, in a game in today's day and age in 2024. And I don't agree with what's being said that no game will ever live up to Baldur's Gate depth and attention. That's not true. If you put the work into it, yes, games can live up to Baldur's Gate depth and attention spans, right? Like, you can make another Baldur's Gate if you put the effort into it. Well, they just didn't do that.
You've got Larian Studios has done it with Divinity Original Sin. They've done it multiple times. They're using the same format. So okay, let's move past, I guess, this point, because I do want to, like I said, I want to talk about the other things. So Bill, what else did you, I mean, was there more that you liked, not liked? I mean, how, you know?
So I'm lost on my train of thought for where I was before the whole tangent happened.
These guys are freaky as fuck.
Yeah, they're like something out of Doom. So combat, I'm thrilled with personally, from actually playing the game and the experience that I'm having. I'm very much surprised, because I was expecting what Hogwarts Legacy kind of had, and I'm not getting that. I'm getting something a lot more in depth. Moving forward from there. Enemy variety, yes, it is. As far as I'm in right now, it's lacking. It's what I kind of expected going into it. I was hoping that they would improve upon it. It does not seem like they have. Yeah. So that is disappointing. Story wise, as far as like the main story, the concept, the motivations pushing us forward, I don't have too many issues with the story base itself. Like the overall motivation, I am enjoying. It's got me interested in it, despite the dialogue and the characters trying to make that not happen. Because I do think that while the story is at bare minimum passable, at maximum it's pretty decent, I don't think the dialogue and the characterizations are doing it any justice, and it's probably putting more people off than it's bringing in. Because
dialogue and characters in general, characters feel very superficial. Every character in this game so far that I've seen, even ones that they've brought from the previous franchise, right, feel very, very superficial and dumbed down to an extent that it's like it was written by somebody for a 4-year-old. Right? See, it feels like a lot of times the dialogue is meant to explain to you what's going on rather than like showing you what's going on, right?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's they're telling and not showing.
I think that's one thing that Co brought up, was like it's a way of doing things that it's not
how people talk.
Normal games when it comes down to like storylines, right? You're not explained things. Like you're not explained that the apple is red. You're shown that the apple is red. In this game, you were explained that the apple is red and round, and it's got a stem, and it's on a tree, right, and that tree's in a forest.
They treat the character and this is just a limited amount.
It's like you're teaching like AI or something.
Well, it's almost like they are insulting the player's intelligence by just being like, "Hey, we're gonna, we're gonna describe to you." Even in the very beginning, it's like, "Hey, how do we stop this from happening? Oh, we got to go over here and do that. But you need to push on this thing, and you need to hit this. Oh, it's not falling. Well, clearly it's not falling. No shit." And then it's
like more than just holding your hand, like being on rails. Like that's
not
really just
not even that. The game has a bad habit of every NPC you come across has to recap the story up to that point. Yes. Like there's so many characters that have brought up the central conflict of the story. I'm not going to bring up what it is for spoiler reasons.
Me crazy.
But every single new companion that I've come across has brought up what the central conflict of the plot is, and then they bring up where they stand into it. So they're telling and not showing. It's poor way to tell a story, and I don't blame people that it takes them out of the story altogether, even if I feel like the story on a base level is at least passable.
Well, the thing you got to remember is that they have the story itself is Dragon Age. They've had 4 games of backstory that they can pull from.
And I do want to disagree. I do think that the callback characters that they brought in from Inquisition, from Origin, I feel like they are the only characters that are particularly well done in this game. I do think every new character that they brought in that I've interacted with up to this point is definitely a step down from prior characterizations.
So I'm the only thing that I am stating in that, right, and the only thing that I can base that off of is my time in Origins with people like Morgana, Alistair, the Bull, everything like that, right? You look at those characters and the interactions. Yes.
Yeah, right.
You look at those characters and the interactions that you had with them in Origins, Inquisitor, all those other games. And then you look at the interactions that you had with what's the fucking dwarf's name? I always forget his name.
Varric.
Varric, yes. You look at the interactions that you've had with Varric. They're short. They're very quick. It's like witty one-liners.
I think it's well, no, I think it's fine that they're quick. I think if they're wanting to create a new cast, which every Dragon Age game has had a heavy emphasis on new cast.
It has, but it's also harking back to the old characters on a big level.
but still, like from Origin to Inquisition, Morrigan didn't have as big of a part in Inquisition as she did in Origin, obviously, because she was a main character in Origin. She did have a part, but
it wasn't witty one-liners.
I think that's being a little bit disingenuous. I don't think that the characters that they've brought in are just one-liners as far as like the old callback characters. I feel like from what I've experienced directly, they are the highlight of the characterization, and it's disappointing in that. But I do think they're handled with care just because they already have an established fan base.
I mean, I know that I know that in the very beginning sequences, there is a history between two certain characters, right? That are very quickly made understood, and it made me want to be like, okay, cool, I'm missing some kind of backstory here. There's something here. Yeah. There's some relationship to these two characters, and it definitely made me be like, cool, I either want to A, go back and watch a video that recaps the history of what I'm missing, or B, go back and play those games, because I don't know anything about these two characters, but
I would never make it through those games.
I mean, but either way, it's no. I mean, it's
it
fine.
Makes you want that, like as a player.
And I think that because I think it's so important to understand that the audience that they're hitting, like that is an audience to go. That's someone to go and cool. I'm the audience. I'm new to the game or new to this franchise. I don't know anything about it. These characters are drawing me in right off the rip. I want to go back and fucking learn about them, whether I go play the game or whether I go and hear something about it. But it's dragging me into the lore. Again, I don't know. 9 hours in, Bill, if the lore just becomes dog shit and nobody gives, and it's basically the story isn't, the best way I can equate
lore's not thrown out the window. It's just, again, it's told, not shown. And that's not the way Dragon Age has done its storytelling in the past. It's not expanded
upon very well at all.
So is a good comparison to this then being like we're looking at how Marvel and DC in the sense that and for anybody that is a nerd and understands it or whatever, DC is very much of that, right? Like DC, in my opinion, treats their fan base when it comes to the movies like they're idiots. Right, where Marvel is just kind of like, hey, we know what hits. We're gonna old Marvel. Let's say
well, it wasn't like that originally. Yeah, this game definitely 100%. I feel like is the DC.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is this the DC kind of version of that? Okay.
Or of yeah.
Okay.
I think Sin does make a good point though with new characters, or not new characters, new players coming into this game. I definitely wouldn't want the old canon characters to throw back so much so that I'm just totally out of the loop. One-liners or not, if it is that kind of short combo with them, but I still wouldn't want to be totally confused being a new player to this game. I would want some kind of curiosity, but they are going for that new cast, so I want to be more involved with that cast rather than the old cast.
I mean, unfortunately, the new cast doesn't have anything worth offering.
As a game standpoint,
and that's the way Dragon Age. And that's the way Dragon Age has always done its characterizations. They've always had the callback characters. They've never been as big as they were from the game that they were from.
Yeah.
But you're better off going to the old characters and hoping that you understand.
Unfortunately so, but you know what that's just as a new player, I can kind of see where I would at least want that.
Just really quickly to touch base on something that's being said as well. One of the bigger issues that people have had, and I don't know if you've seen this or not yet, Bill, I've seen.
I agree 100% with what's going on in chat right now. Yeah, it's the Fallout
very
4
little choice
decision
impact is huge, dude.
Yep, it's like Fallout 3 to Fallout 4 dialogue option choices. Like, yes, there are options, but there's not really options. There are options that will still impact like character relationships and stuff, like there always have been. But like what we're seeing in chat, there's no way to be outright a bad person.
So
in
you're
this
not.
game.
It's not like
that's what I'm trying to say.
In the other,
good. That's what I'm trying to say is while there are choices for the large, they're largely inconsequential in a lot of cases from what I've seen. They, especially when it comes down to a lot of the choices that you make when it comes down to companions, I don't feel like they impact the story all that much. I don't know if you've noticed that or not.
So there's what you're saying is there's a thin veil that they guard pretty heavily on the choice that you make.
So yeah, there's the approval and disapproval system. It basically it's more for the dating sim portion of the game because all Dragon Age games are dating sims at the end of the day. And that's, at least from what I'm seeing so far, that's really the only effect that the approval and disapproval system has is for if you're wanting to court a character. And I think that is intentional because they didn't have a way of porting in save decisions from Inquisition into this game, which is something that they have done in other BioWare titles.
I think that's bullshit. I think that they could have if they wanted to, but
I think they could have 100%, but they wanted to streamline it.
I would say that is, I think
which I'm sorry, which pissed me off because I'm like the amount of choices that you make in all of those original games, Inquisitor alone, like them bringing, I can't say that. I'm not going to spoil anything, but like them bringing back characters from the old one, them bringing back characters from the old one and then not offering you the choice. Like they offered you a very small choice as to what you wanted to do with when customizing this specific character, but like it's so minute and so inconsequential to the actual game when it comes to like your previous decisions. I would have almost rather they just didn't put it in the fucking game. Like
that's what I was going to say. It doesn't. It seems very Fable esque. Like I don't know if you guys remember, the Fable morality system that was there versus something where like they're known for KOTOR, right? They're known for the games that are like, hey, like what these decisions that you make are going to have very heavy consequences on the outline, the story, the the endings, everything, right? And I do think that and I know that we said we can't necessarily compare it, but you can say in a post Baldur's Gate 3 world, right, and universe,
even in a post Witcher 3 world,
you do have to be very mindful of like that. Like if you are going to have a Paragon system, then it needs to be done. It needs to be done well. If you're not going to have, if you're just wanting to tell a very specific story, then fuck the system, right? And just understand that that's not what you're doing. Like you're just going to go a completely different route. It's more of a controlled storyline. I mean, I was wondering about that because I am enjoying the choices that I am making, but I'm also like, is this going to have a greater effect on my entire story?
It's more flavor than it is actual impact.
Okay.
It has very little impact on the story at all, which is a huge step back from the original Dragon Age games. Where
like I said,
pretty much every decision made would impact the overall standing of the story for the most part.
The easiest comparison is like older Fallout games to how they did the dialogue systems in Fallout 4. Like your choices in Fallout 4 didn't mean anything. Okay. And the choices in this will only like improve your recording with specific.
Is there different endings in this game? Do we know?
I do not know.
I don't believe so. No,
I doubt there would be.
Pretty much.
But I haven't gotten that far in. Obviously, it's a 50 to 60 hour game, so I haven't gotten that far into it.
So. Starting to wrap this up so that we can get to the news section. I want to go. There's more to go over. I'm not done. We're not done.
Yeah, I was about to say I've still got a lot that I want to talk about that I like. The stuff that I do like.
This
Let me. I literally am transitioning to you, Enigma. Let me fucking transition, bro.
Well, I'd like Bill to be able to if he wants to wrap up because I have kind of pushed in on his conversation. Sorry, Bill.
No, it's all good. I will get my firsthand experience in at some point. As far honestly, I'm pretty well done with it.
The conversation
like my take on it
continue to go on. So Enigma, what obviously you, as someone that has played the game, have played the series, and
Haven't played the game.
He hasn't played this game.
I know.
Haven't
Played the
this game
series,
yet.
not played the game. I was trying to correct myself. Played the series, not
Full,
played the game.
full transparency.
Right.
Yeah, full transparency. I have not played the game. I don't intend on buying it.
And aside from
unless
the
it
things
goes deeply on sale.
that we have already hit on, what are the what is your take on this? Like,
yeah,
why are you making?
I mean, I've said a lot of bad things. I think that my cons for the game very heavily outweigh my pros. I didn't like the cartoonish character style. wasn't a big fan of that. That's just me though. Didn't like the disappointing banter between characters coming from the original games. Where you had like banter between Morrigan and Alistair and all those other iconic characters, right? Like I feel like the banter in this game is just subpar to a massive extent. Poor writing quality, we've already went over that, right? Subpar characters. In my opinion, a very simplistic combat system, but again, like you guys said, that could have just been the people that I've watched. I'm willing to give that up. And the limited enemy variety is one of those things where it's like, yeah, that's just a Dragon Age staple. I agree with that. I will agree with that. The other thing that I really didn't like, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Bill, I didn't feel like the puzzles that were in the game are all that they feel very repetitive. It feels like every puzzle that you go to, for the most part, you have like 3 different puzzle styles, and that's it.
Yeah, but I didn't see it as much different from prior Dragon Age games. Like Inquisition,
I'm not.
These aren't puzzle games at the end of the day, but they do have the God of War, Ragnarok style of puzzle design, where the companions will just mouth off and give you a big hint to a puzzle.
Give you the fucking basically give you the fucking answer to the puzzle.
Well, that checks out to their dialogue and everything too.
And then restrictive decision making was just that was my last con pretty much. The pros that I did have, and I'm kind of back and forth on these, and you can agree with me or disagree with me. At least it wasn't a live service game. Originally, when the game first released, this was supposed to be a live service game, like an online live service model. So at least they went back on that. I'm really happy to see that.
I didn't know about that, but if the prior version of the game is to be believed, it was supposed to be like a medieval Payday almost.
Yeah. I do feel like some of the gameplay mechanics in the game, you can tell it was supposed to be almost a live service game in a few aspects of them, but I'm glad that they didn't go down that route. I do believe that the graphics look extremely good. The world itself is gorgeous. That's very apparent. I mean, I'm not going to go up against that. Like people have been saying it all night long.
PlayStation, right?
Fucking gorgeous.
Bill?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And it looks great. It looks great on the PlayStation. It looks great on PC. High graphics on PC, like the vistas and everything like that, look fucking stunning. I was very impressed.
I mean, I've heard some other sides to that the PC version has got a lot of issues with like crashing and things like that. But I mean that's par for the course. Par for the course.
Par for the optimization.
Par for the course on terrible optimization for PC games these days. So I think this is going to be one that you and I have a little bit of contention on, Bill. I agree with you when we were talking about it in the podcast discussion that the character creator was really good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will agree with you that yes, the character creator is impressive. It does very well at being able to create okay looking character. Again, I don't like the art style, so like that's my biggest issue with this entire thing is like I don't like the character art style. But I can look at it and be like, yeah, I mean it's an impressive amount of customization when it comes down to it. But at the same time, I'm looking at it like Monster Hunter Wilds character creation, in my opinion, was just like pretty much as on par, if not more on par. I can't really give the game. I can't really give
the same thing whenever I logged into Wilds, that the character creator was just as good as Dragon Ages, because I'm very impressed with Dragon Ages. I'm very impressed with Wilds.
Okay, so that's my big thing. I can't really give the game like a stunning review based off of character creation.
Where would you put the character? Because I've seen this come up multiple times with character customization and whatever else. And I mean, I played around with it and I was like, okay, like yeah, you can make a character and you can fuck with it. And I mean,
if
I made
you
myself
dig into it,
I did.
if you dig into it, you can make an extremely good looking character. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, I turned myself into a Greek fucking god. Like, trust me, like, you know, my wife came in and goes, "If you looked like that, bro, no questions asked." I'm like, yeah, okay, go away. Question is, what is the gold standard? So, like, what's up here? What would we put up here? Is it BDO? Is it the fucking Throne and Liberty? Like, what is it? Is it you know,
not
Dark Souls? Whatever. I don't know.
It's Mecha Break.
Okay.
Mecha Break. There you go. For me, probably Black Desert. I think Black Desert.
I was gonna say BDO had a really good one.
Yeah, Black Desert takes the cake for like the most impressive one that I can think of in the past like decade.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that. I've not, like, nothing comes to mind personally. What do you think, Bill?
From my personal experience, the only character creator I've really like been impressed with was the Demon Souls remakes character creator. Other than that, the character creator experience I've had is either very minimal or very rough to actually get something good. I didn't like Elden Ring's character creator that much. A lot of those character creators I feel like are more monster factories than anything.
Oddly enough, in recency, Once Human had a pretty decent character created for me.
See, I agree with what chat's saying is Dragon
Age 2 did a really good job with it. Or Dragon's Dogma 2, yes.
Yeah.
Did a really good job with it too. Yeah. Okay. They was actually impressive. And then just the biggest one that I can say is like the big baddie at the end. I'm really glad. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm really glad that they did his story arc and his character arc from the other games. Like, they did a decent job with making him the big baddie, because they kind of skirted around it in Origins, and then Inquisitor, they kind of skirted around it as well. And it was one of those situations where I'm like, dude, if you're gonna make him a fucking big baddie, just make him a fucking big baddie. Let's go, please. Like, it was quit fucking around. Let's get him in there. He obviously does a really good job at doing that. His character is tailor made for it. Like, let's just do it. So I'm glad that they actually did it in this one. So
cool.
I do want to. Okay, I don't want to cut you off. Do you have anything else? Because I have a question, and then I want.
That was the last of them that I had. Yeah, those were my big points on that one for the stuff that I liked. I actually liked was just.
So I want to address one of the glaring things that is coming up anytime that you mention this game, right? Which is obviously we skirted around it. We talked a little bit about it, which is obviously dialogue decisions, story. Is there a narrative that this game is pushing or bringing up and kind of forcing you down a road where it doesn't feel natural, and it kind of feels like, hey, this is being shoved in a way where, like, I'm being forced to go down this path where I don't maybe not necessarily want my character to go down that path or whatever else? Or is it pretty like, oh, like, hey, like, this is an option, dialogue choice that you can go down this, you know, political narrative, whatever narrative you want to call it? Is there something there? Because I've seen this come up multiple times across multiple different places, right? You know, and I'm only at the very beginning of it. Like, and I'm wanting to know, like, is this, Bill, have you experienced anything that has made you feel like, hey, no matter what I'm doing, I'm being forced down a route, like, and I'm being.
So there is an agenda with this game. Whether you agree with the agenda or not, that's right on you. But there is an agenda with this game. Is it forced? No, for the most part. There is a quest line that does.
Choices aren't.
Nothing's forced. You don't have to interact with any of this stuff outside of a particular companion's quest line that does, like, dip into it, but it's nothing with your character that is forced upon your character one way or the other. You can choose to interact with it or not outside of one companion's quest line.
Is that a MSQ or main story quest line, or is it like a side thing?
It's a companion quest line.
I guess our companion quest lines, are they like, do you have the choice to do them or not?
Yeah, if you choose not to, like, interact with the character or not have, like, it, most of the companion quest lines are based on you bringing them on adventures with you and building up relationship, building up the approval disapproval thing that will unlock character quest lines and expand their story out. If you don't put the time or effort into specific characters, you won't get those quest lines. So,
gotcha.
Okay.
Right. I do feel like it is there is like Bill said, there is definitely a narrative. While it's not forced on you to make decisions, the narrative is definitely there, and it's a
kind of.
I'm trying to skirt past it because I have my own opinions on it. I don't like
depending on your take on it, it could be an attractor or a detractor.
Yeah, it's one of those situations. I have a very, very small bullshit meter when it comes to some of this kind of stuff, and I don't like it when it's forced on you like that, when it's just like in your face constantly, hey, this, right?
Is it more like incentivized
to be fair, it's not constantly in your face from what I've experienced so far, from what I've watched of the wife playing it. It's outside of a single companion. That is the most forced it is. Other than that, it's just menu options that you can completely ignore, not even interact with if you don't want to, or you can deep dive completely into it. And there are some choices that if you make them, it can turn the entire gameplay experience into that style. It's an RPG choice. And whether you want to interact with it or not, that's the role playing aspect of it.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like it's good that the choices are there for people, and I'm glad. I originally like it. That was the narrative that was being driven for a long time. Is like the choice isn't there to not make those decisions. But it does seem like there's less of it from what I've seen. It's definitely the later on the narrative is there. It's not just in the companion quest. There is certain aspects of it in the later bit of the game that are in the actual like main storyline and everything like that. So it's not just companion quests, but it's definitely not forced on you. The biggest thing that I can say is like, if you played Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm not making a comparison, even though I believe that these two games could easily be made a comparison of. They're both RPGs. They're both like the only thing that's different between them is the combat system. If you played Baldur's Gate 3 and you were fine with Baldur's Gate 3, you're being a hypocrite.
So
because Baldur's Gate 3 had this
honestly, I would take it a step forward and say if you've played prior Dragon Age games,
true, yeah,
and you've been okay with them,
Dragon Age titles,
you're a hypocrite. Yeah.
Yep.
So
it's one of those situations of like, just look into it. If it's not something that's for you, then it's not for you. Make your decisions off that. Don't force other people to not, don't be angry or disgruntled about people playing the game just because it has stuff in it that you don't like.
What I kind of want to end on, and then we'll move, is that this is what, look, we've been doing this episode show for 142 episodes, right? Like this is a 142nd episode, and I've been around this group of guys and people for this entire time, and why I believe so much in what we do and why I can say that this podcast is great is because we have 4 different opinions on something, right? And five. Sorry, Tony's not here, but he's not here for this particular conversation. But if you go right now, there are 2 very distinct review camps, and it's really sad to say that, like, hey, like these review camps are pushing people, like you said, Enigma, and like Bill, like you said, like it's pushing people in opposite polar directions. And I don't think that it's fair to do that. And so you come here to get a very true and honest, and it just, as you guys were talking about, it made me sit back and go, wow, this is why I love what we do, because, again, like we can appreciate and say, hey, like there's a narrative there. If you want to engage with it, engage with it. If you don't, or whatever, but don't judge a game solely based on that. And there are 2 different camps that are judging.
Well, and really quick, not just the game. Don't just judge the game, and don't judge the people that are playing it. Like if somebody wants to play the fucking game, let them play the fucking game. Regardless, like I don't agree that the game is good. Bill agrees that it's great. I'm not sitting here telling him.
Great's not a word I would use.
Okay. Bill's literally said game of the year. That's the words that came out of Bill's mouth.
Oh my gosh.
I'm having fun with it.
The point is, I do not like the game. Bill does. He's having fun with it in certain aspects.
Like game, let player play game. We enjoy it.
I'm not sitting here going, Bill, you shouldn't be playing this game because of XYZ. I'm going, Bill, these are the reasons why I don't like the game.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're having fun with the game. Play it. That's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. if you're enjoying it, fucking more power to you, man. I'm happy for it.
And that's why really you should come to the Pre-Patch Podcast to get your information on whether you should play a game or not play a game. But if you don't choose to come here for whatever reason, just make sure that you do your homework, and research, not only on fucking video games, but on everything. And
don't pay attention. And we brought it up in the podcast chat on multiple occasions. Don't pay attention to the rage baiting, because I fell into the rage bait shit and then had to look
a lot of people. If you don't, it's really sad. Like the we're seeing it very much in like the gaming space, but this is a great segment into the news stuff. Is like the news articles that are out there, the review websites, content creators, influencers, whatever you want to call them, like they know what gets clicked,
bullshit.
Right? They know how to get clicks, bro.
Right,
they
and
know
like that's what they're doing, and it's understood. Like if you look up Dragon Age right now, real quick, if you look up Dragon Age right now on YouTube, I'm telling you, it is vivid. The two camps that are there, right, and it's just you can look at the titles, and if you lean one way on something, it's gonna go that way, and if you lean another way on something, it's gonna go the other way, and it is and it's just like. And that's all it stays on. And it doesn't go into the things that we talked about, what makes the game good or bad.
Thanks all for tuning in to the Patch Notes. And if you enjoyed and want to see more, you can catch us live every Thursday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Or catch us after the fact at anchor.fm/prepatch podcast. See you next time.